I approached a fellow on the street the other day and I asked him, so when it's all said and done and you stop breathing and you die, do you think God will let you into heaven? And he said, yeah, I think he will. I said, what do you think? Why do you think so? He says, well, I've been a pretty good person. And I says, oh, you've been a good person? He says, yeah, I'm pretty good. He says, well, have you ever told a lie? And he says, not that I can think of. I said, wow. I said, well, have you ever stolen anything? He goes, I don't think so. I said, well, let me tell you about a dream I had the other day. I said, in my dream, I was standing before an angel, and he was at the gate of heaven. And I says, well, here I am. I said, I want to get in. And he looked at me. He says, you want to come in here? I says, yeah. He says, I believe in God, and I want to get into heaven. He says, and what makes you think that you can get into heaven? What part of you do you think actually deserves to get into heaven? I says, well, what do you mean? He says, do you think that your eyes deserve to get into heaven? What part of your body do you actually think deserves to get into heaven? Do your eyes deserve to get into heaven after what they've seen? After looking upon women and lusting after them? After looking at the things of other people and desiring and coveting them? The books that you've read, the television programs that you've watched, the movies that have gone through your eye gate, you think that your eyes actually deserve to get into heaven? How about your ears? How about the things that you've listened to, the gossip and junk that's gone into the ear and contaminated your heart? You think your ears can get into heaven? You think your mouth will get into heaven after all the criticisms and the complainings and the cussing? You think that your mouth will get there? How about your mind? What about all those things that go on in secret in your mind? You think I'm going to let your mind come into heaven? What about your hands? The hands that have hurt, the hands that were created to do good things, and you used your hands to do bad things. What about your feet? Your feet have taken you to places that haven't pleased God. You think that your feet are going to get into heaven? And there he went. The angel going through all the different parts of my body, asking me if there was anything that was within me that deserved to get into heaven. And I said, whoa. I said, there's not a cell in my body that deserves to get into heaven. And you know what? I told this man, I says, you've got a problem. And I said, just like I had a problem. I said, there isn't a chance that you and I deserve to ever get into God's house when we die. And that's why Jesus came, so he could come. And he says, when Jesus came and he died on the cross, you know, it's not just so that he could do some sort of show. It's not so we could do some passion play, you know, at Easter time. When Jesus died on the cross, all the junk that went through my eyes and into my ears and came out my mouth, into my heart, in my mind, my feet, my hands, all that stuff was placed on him. And then God opened up heaven and came down and punished his son. And the wrath of God came down upon his son and punished all the sin that I committed, but punished his son instead of punishing me. And Jesus says that if we'll repent, and that if we'll renounce the things that we've been doing that haven't pleased God, and if we put our trust and our faith in him, that he's willing to come down and forgive us. And he's willing to come down and give us a clean slate. He's willing to come down and purify our eyes and our mind and our ears and our mouth and our hands and our feet and every part of our body. He's willing to purify it if we're willing to repent and if we're willing to give our lives to him. And so no, there's not an ounce of me that deserves to get into heaven. But Jesus has made it possible. And that's the hope that there is today. You can repent. You can turn to Christ. And you'll be able to get into his house.